rise and shine. 6 a.m. and your hand can't make it to the alarm clock before the voices in your head start telling you that it's too early, too dark, and too cold to get out of bed. Aching muscles lie still in rebellion, pretending not to hear your brain commanding them to move. A legion of voices are shouting their unanimous permission for you to hit the snooze button and go back to dreamland. But you didn't ask their opinion. The voice you've chosen to listen to is one of defiance. A voice that says there was a reason you set that alarm in the first place. So sit up, put your feet on the floor, and don't look back, because we've got work to do. Welcome to the grind. For what is each day but a series of conflicts between the right way and the easy way? 10,000 streams fan out like a river delta before you, each one promising the path of least resistance. Thing is, you're headed upstream. And when you make that choice, when you decide to turn your back on what's comfortable and safe and what some would call common sense, well, that's day one. From there, it only gets tougher. So just make sure this is something you want, because the easy way out will always be there, ready to wash you away. All you have to do is pick up your feet. But you aren't going to, are you? With each step comes the decision to take another. You're on your way now, but this is no time to dwell on how far you've come. You're in a fight against an opponent you can't see, but oh, you can feel him on your heels, can't you? Feel him breathing down your neck. You know what that is? That's you. Your fears, your doubts, and insecurities all lined up like a firing squad, ready to shoot you out of the sky. But don't lose heart. While they're not easily defeated, they are far from invincible. Remember, this is the grind, the battle royale between you and your mind, your body, and the devil on your shoulder who's telling you that this is just a game. This is just a waste of time. Your opponents are stronger than you. Drown out the voice of uncertainty with the sound of your own heartbeat. Burn away your self-doubt with a fire lit beneath you. Remember what we're fighting for, and never forget that momentum is a cruel mistress. She can turn on a dime with the smallest mistake. She is ever searching for the weak place in your armor, that one tiny thing you forgot to prepare for. So as long as the devil is hiding the details, the question remains, is that all you got? Are you sure? And when the answer is yes, when you've done all you can to prepare yourself for battle, then it's time to go forth and boldly face your enemy, the enemy within. Only now you must take that fight into the open, into hostile territory. You're a lion in a field of lions, all hunting the same elusive prey with a desperate starvation that says victory is the only thing that can keep you alive. So believe that voice that says you can run a little faster and you can throw a little harder, and that for you, the laws of physics are merely a suggestion. Luck is the last dying wish of those who want to believe that winning can happen by accident. Sweat, on the other hand, is for those who know it's a choice. So decide now, because destiny waits for no man. And when your time comes and 1,000 different voices are trying to tell you you're not ready for it, listen instead to that lone voice of dissent. The one that says you are ready, you are prepared. It's all up to you now. So rise and shine.
You got that, everybody? Fired up now? Welcome to Cold War Radio, ladies and gentlemen, live on our home base, WAAR. We are America Radio, your number one source for streaming political and government talk anywhere. I'm Hutch Bailey Jr., deep down in the bunker in my Smith & Wesson studio, and out there west of Murmansk with a Swedish and Finnish buffer zone. Let's welcome Norway. Come in, Radio Norway.
Good evening, Hutch, and good evening, lovely audience. That was an awesome intro. I really like that.
I stumbled across that on a very long weekend. I've been off the air, so we've been off the air so long. I almost retired. It was kind of nice, but I had to get back here. Couldn't wait to get back, ladies and gentlemen. Please follow me on Spreaker, like the Facebook page, facebook.com/Cold War Radio 22. You can catch the show on Blueberry, Roku, YouTube, iHeartRadio, the 405 Media. Although I got to talk to them and see where, because I went there and he tweets it out, but I couldn't see where the actual show was. But we'll figure that out. The Cold War Radio app is available at the iTunes App Store. Soon to be back on the other one's the Android, but we'll figure that out sometime. The email is hutch@steelcityresistance.com. The Cold War Radio patron hotline, 412-567-1460 if you'd like to call in. We have a question for you, so hopefully you can answer that. The chat room is up on Spreaker. Go to steelcityresistance.com. for all your links. Catch the show notes links there. Become a Cold War Radio patron. Haven't had to do patron in a while. Hutch Bailey Jr. P.O. Box 96022 Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania 15226 if you'd like to send mail. And Rocky became a patron. Let me not forget about that. We got a big show for you tonight. It's kind of centered on current events, things that are going on, but as we usually do, we try to take current events and show you the relevance of history behind those current events, so we always understand that we're not just living in the present, that almost everything that you see going on around you has some precedence in history and is not something that's brand new. Norway, I think we have a problem, especially in the West, of thinking that everything that we know and that we see, that we are the first to see that and the first to know that, and that is very, very rarely the case.
Absolutely. First, I would like to give a shout out to History Bee for being a source of inspiration for this episode, and also to Ken Crater. He is a regular caller, and we really enjoy him calling. And I wish that more people would follow Ken's brilliant example and call the show on 412-567-1460. But yes, you're right, Hutch. A lot of the things we see in media right now, what's going on around us, actually has its roots, or not its roots, but has happened previously in history. And I mean, we can go back to the fall of Rome, which had a depraved entertainment industry and had the same problems, a lot of the same problems in politics that we see now. So, and the history is full of examples that when people lose their way in life, the ethics and morality in society, this is where we end up. We end up with a society that's going downhill and is eroding from the bottom up.
And I would highly encourage you to go to steelcityresistance.com in the research room and carve out about 90 minutes. You don't have to do it all at one time. Once you get the URL, you can go back to it in your YouTube history or however you do it, and check out cultural Marxism. What Norway just said, one of the tenets of cultural Marxism, one of the attributes is what he just said, entertainment of a very violent nature. And that's what he was talking about with Rome. And we have it here now. I mean, you look at all the different, not reality, but like the contest shows where they're whacking each other off of mountains and off of big man-made things into water. And you look at the NFL and every sport pretty much, or not every sport, but a lot of them are centered on violence. So we've reached that, and cultural Marxism explains that very well. And actually our show tonight is about a slice of cultural Marxism, to say the least. Now, one of the tenets of everything involved with the Hollywood side of it, maybe not the DC side so much, but global corporations control 90% of all the media that most people consume. Now, I try to, and I know members of this audience try to stay in that 10%, but this is a topic that Stacy Rush, one of our co-hosts that you know her well, has been talking about for years. I've seen her talk a lot to live audiences on a stage about it. She's very fluent in the different corporations, but this is a problem, and this is one of the reasons why this is all-consuming, it seems.
Absolutely. I mean, the six big, which is General Electric, News Corp, Disney, Viacom, Time Warner, and CBS. They control over 90% of the companies, the media companies that we consume today, and they have an enormous influence. Back in 2011, 232 media executives controlled the information diet of 277 million Americans. That's one media executive for every 850,000 subscribers.
And it's worse overseas. I mean, the slant anyway. But yeah, it's a dangerous situation, and you see a little bit of antitrust muscles coming out of this administration, which I think is a good thing. We'll see. We'll see if they can do anything, but not sure if that's going to happen or not.
Absolutely. I mean, I am a staunch believer in and defender of capitalism, because I've seen how poorly socialism is working in Norway. And but there is one thing that needs to reign in capitalism, and that is antitrust laws. When you have 6 companies able to command over 90% of the news stream and entertainment stream of almost every American, that is too few. And you have banks that are too big to fail. That is just horrendous. And I believe that on top of good capitalism, there needs to be good antitrust laws.
Absolutely, no question about it. Especially with the global nature of those corporations.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely.
Now, something I saw that was hilarious, Norway today, is Donald Trump. This is so good. I don't know if you saw this or not, but I have.
Yeah, I did.
the president proposed a fake news trophy for TV networks and CNN. He separated the networks and CNN. It's just I love this stuff. People cringe. They clutch their pearls. Their panties get in a bunch. I love this.
Yeah, well, I mean, you have fake news, and then CNN, which is very fake news.
Right.
So of course they need their own trophy.
Oh, they ought to do this. Somebody will. Now there's another story out there, and I get leery with these. I'm not a protectionist per se, but I mean, when I see a story that says Chinese fake Christmas trees are driving U.S. Christmas tree growers out of business. No, that's not the case. It doesn't matter who builds the trees. People are getting away from all the work that goes into a live Christmas tree. Now, some people still do it. I did it for years, but I did not quit doing it because Chinese trees showed up. I mean, fake Christmas trees have been around as long as real ones, almost. It's just I see articles like that, and calm down. Let's get our manufacturing base back together.
Mm-hmm. But you use fake trees?
I do. I mean, I used live ones for years, but the older you get, the more convenient, and plus they look so real now.
Yeah, that's. I mean,
you spray a little bit of pine air scent in the air, and it's awesome.
Yeah. And I mean, if you want the perfect Christmas tree, you should go with a fake one. But I'm conservative, so I'll stick with the natural ones for now.
So that's my liberal tree.
That's your liberal tree, exactly.
All right. Okay, now, ladies and gentlemen, you can't make this stuff up. You've got John Conyers showing up to meetings in his underwear. You've got Al Franken sticking his tongue down some lady's throat, and you've got Mitch McConnell saying that Judge Roy Moore, although he never got caught doing anything, Judge Roy Moore is not fit to enter the halls of the Senate, but Franken and Conyers are back to work today, and Mitch McConnell didn't say a whole lot.
No, I mean, I'm just, I'm kind of sitting on the sideline here, just watching the show go by. But I must say, every day is just another surprise on this bandwagon, and I'm just wondering what's next. I mean, this is. And I think it's going to take off.
I do too.
I actually don't think we've seen the pinnacle of it all. I think we're in for a much rougher ride than what we've seen now.
Well, I'll tell you, the thing with me, the story with me, is not the sex scandal. The story with me is these Republicans. Ladies and gentlemen, I have gone over the weekend. I took my anger up another notch. And now when I refer to the establishment Republicans, I call them the establishment pigs. because what they're doing is they are actually they're going with the Democrats. You know, and this is something that I just can't tolerate, man. It's something that it's unnecessary, but they're doing it. They're absolutely throwing in with the Democrats against 65 million people that voted for Donald J. Trump and for Make America Great Again.
Yeah, well, this is a perfect example of treason, and when you look at a guy like John McCain, which now again is scheming in Congress to stop the tax bill. I mean, what does it take for the GOP to look at this guy's track record and point to? I dare the GOP point to one issue that McCain has touted that is actually Republican.
No, I agree.
I mean, the guy is by all intents and purposes a Democrat.
Absolutely, and it's something that it boils my blood. You know, the whole thing, all of it. It just Judge Moore and you know, everything else. Them not saying anything about these Democrats. You look back and you look at the obstruction against President Trump, and then look how they bowed down for Obama for 8 years. They let him have everything he wanted. Paul Ryan gave him an omnibus bill at the end.
Yeah, and the majority of Republicans in Congress, they're not doing their job. It's that simple, and they need to be voted out. And I mean, when the people is this squarely behind Trump, that should be a fairly easy task to execute.
I agree. And Colorado, try back again. I gotta check my settings, but give a call back, ladies and gentlemen. Your weekly Jihad report for November 18th to the 24th, 2017. 29 Jihad attacks, 550 killed, 395 injured, 6 suicide blasts. All this in 12 countries. The religion of peace atrocity of the week, Egypt, 305 dead. Other recent misunderstandings of Islam. On the 26th in Pakistan, suspected fundamentalists shoot a transgender person to death. Now there's a brave dude. A transgender in Pakistan. Woohoo! The 25th in Pakistan, a Fedayeen suicide bomber takes 5 others with him. On the 24th in Egypt, a bomb at a Sufi mosque and opens fire on fleeing worshippers, mowing down over 300, including 27 children. On the 23rd in Nigeria, Islamists stage a middle-of-the-night raid, pull 7 farmers out of their beds, and shoot them point blank. On the 23rd in Afghanistan, children are among the casualties when a suicide bomber strikes a crowd. On the 21st in Iraq, a suicide truck bomber plows into a market and obliterates at least 32 lives. The religion of peace, ladies and gentlemen, one body at a time.
Allahu Akbar, Allah.
All right, now let's welcome Jim to the program. What's going on, Jim?
Hey, Hutch, Norway, how's it going?
Oh, doing just good. I got to get Norway back on the phone here because my system's acting up, but what's on your mind, sir?
Okay, so kind of...
All right, you still there, Jim? Oh, no. Okay, there we go. That didn't work.
Okay, I'm back.
All right.
I'm back. Okay.
Go ahead, Jim.
Okay, so anyway, I kind of have a pet peeve with the use of the word capitalism. And the reason I say that is it's the language of Marx. So when we, on the right, concede and use the word capitalism, I think we're kind of behind the 8 ball from the get-go. What we have is a market economy, and it's as old as humans. There's no ism in the market. It's just people acting without coercion.
Absolutely,
Fair
point. We have a market economy, and I think you're right. Maybe we should tone down the use of capitalism. But it's such an easy term, so I fall into that trap all the time. But you're absolutely right.
Well, I think it's important to take the language and the narrative back from the left and not let them define our terms for us.
And actually, that's one of
we're talking like a Marxist out of the gate, like using the word capitalism.
I agree 100%. And they're, Alinsky and the rest of them, they all know that the language is so important, and the modern leftists, and they're experts at it. We let them do it all the time. Great call, Jim, and great point. Thanks.
Absolutely.
All right, thanks.
But yeah, that's so important. And if you've listened to the show for any amount of time, this is one of my soft spots. I mean, it's something that we allow to occur. With so many things. I mean, with abortion and pro-choice. Give me a break. Pro-choice for who?
Exactly. And Jimmy's absolutely right. We tend to fall into the vocabulary of the left, and absolutely he's absolutely right. We are in a market economy, and I love the market economy, and that's what we should be defending. And you're right, Hutch. Language is extremely important because it holds the key to what we're trying to understand. So language is not an arbitrary unit in the struggle for getting the truth out there.
Absolutely. All right, let's roll into our first story. We're talking about Hollywood and DC just being perverted and things of that nature. We're going to cover a couple different things, but first, let's talk about Anthony Weiner, but it's really not about Anthony Weiner. This is about which party has the most sex scandals. And when I went into this, I thought for sure, Norway, that I was going to be vindicated and that this was going to be so tilted to the left that it would be its own subject, and that did not happen. Now, that being said, I got this from a leftist publication, but I can almost verify all these things, and this is what kind of drug me to change the theme a little bit. Both parties are perverted, man. I mean, these politicians, I don't know what it is about being a politician, but these guys are sick.
Yes, indeed, both parties are corrupted, and we see that with Congress again and again. I mean, there are so many rhinos or closet Democrats in there, but there is a bias to this. I read this article and I found at least one big bias, and that is the left. They don't really have any morality. I mean, morality, they've thrown that out. They are going down the path of Marx and Lenin and what have we not. But Republicans, they hold themselves to a really high standard, and so does the staffers. Do the staffers that work for Republican representatives? And I think that if a staffer or a constituent or any other that has contact with a Republican elective discovers that this elective has done something that is inappropriate, I think the threshold for making this known, for taking action against this Republican, is much lower on the conservative side than on the liberal side.
No, I agree. And the other thing too is the way, although the crimes are pretty much split, the reaction to them certainly is not. The reaction is just completely lopsided.
Absolutely. I mean, when it comes to covering these scandals, Republicans are really painted as demons, right, and really, sent through the meat grinder in the media. While Democrats, well, look at their voting records. They've been so much pro-women, right? So that's so they need a pass. They supported this and that cause, and so they need a pass. Absolutely.
Sure. And the other thing too is, I got this from the Daily Beast, but there was other similar pieces on this. But some of the things are, you don't know how many Democrat scandals just went unreported and nobody knows about them. That's the other thing. These are all public scandals. But the author says, after studying more than 60 scandals over the past 20 years involving all politicians or major candidates for city mayor and above, many involved crimes, others just allegations, but all wound up as tabloid fodder. Some conclusions can be reached. The number of sex scandals has increased dramatically over the past few decades, thanks to technology, new press standards, and a post-Clinton belief that everything is fair game. Republicans have more scandals, 35 to 28, but Democrats have bigger ones based on our methodology, 13 out of the top 20. Democrats tend to have more problems with harassment, staffers, and underage girls. Republicans tend to have more problems with prostitutes, hypocrisy, and underage boys. To offer some clarity, we've broken the scandals into categories and graded them Cook Report style. We also ranked all sex scandals overall using a methodology that accounted for whether a crime was committed versus inappropriate behavior, whether the charges were proven versus alleged, the level of office held, and whether the incident involved children, staff, a cover-up, or hypocrisy. Prostitution. This category combines both those who solicited a prostitute but for whatever reason did not accept, think former Idaho Senator Larry Craig, and those who went ahead and became Johns. Republicans, by a count of 6-1, have been involved in prostitution scandals. For our rankings, soliciting prostitution without accepting it was weighted slightly lower than becoming a John. Solid Republican, 6-1.
Staffer. There's a clear abuse of power when a politician and his employee is involved in a sex scandal. Democrats, by a count of 16-6, have seemingly leveraged that power imbalance more. Solid Democrats, 16-6.
Hypocrisy. Almost half the sex scandals we turned up involved someone saying one thing while doing another. The earliest example was women's rights champion Robert Packwood, who in 1992 was infamously slapped with several sexual harassment and abuse charges from former female staffers. Solid Republicans, 17-9.
Sexual harassment, whether threats or phone calls, it's mostly been Democrats. Solid Democrat, 9-2.
Adultery. Bipartisanship, more of a personal ethical issue rather than a legal one. The adultery category is the most populated, with Republicans and Democrats nearly even, with the Schwarzenegger scandal tipping the category to the Republicans. Lean Republican, 21-20.
Inappropriate conduct with a minor. This type of scandal indicates at the least a serious flaw or lapse in judgment. The most infamous example is former Representative Mark Foley, who exchanged sexually charged emails and instant messages with underage pages, it says here. 2 Republican and 1 Democrat have been involved in this type of scandal. Lean Republican, 2-1.
And those pages were like errand boys on the congressional floor.
Okay.
It's actually a title. Sexual relations with a minor. Far more serious than above, the most serious charge, in fact, among all recent political sex scandals. Conviction carries more than a decade in jail based on federal sentencing guidelines. Toss-up, 3-3.
Out of wedlock child. 3 Republicans have confirmed having children as a result of extramarital affairs, compared to 1 Democrat. Of course, Schwarzenegger is the latest. Solid Republican, 3-1.
And that's because people like Bill Clinton don't claim their children.
Exactly.
Sexual assault. 6 Democrats have faced allegations of sexual assault compared to 4 for Republicans. Lean Democrat, 6-4.
Cuckolding. Republicans have had 4 scandals involving an affair with a married woman, compared to one for Democrats. The only woman on this list is Helen Chenoweth, created a cuck queen. Who knew? Out of her lover's wife. Solid Republican, 4-1.
And finally, cover up. Either with money or behind-the-scenes wrangling or just weak denial lies, 6 Republicans have been caught covering up a sex scandal compared with 3 Democrats, with payoffs ranging from $150,000 or a job for a spouse to allegedly $20, leading Republicans 6-3. So there you go, ladies and gentlemen. Just a little bit of fun. Wanted to go through that. We're going to get serious here. Before we get into the material, let's listen to Laura Ingraham. She interviewed the president about this. Let's listen to what he feels.
Welcome back. Hollywood media and the music industry are awash in revelations of sexual misdeeds and alleged crimes. And now they've taken things a step further. Now they're depicting the death of the president. This is the cover of Snoop Dogg's latest album. I guess he's not cooking with Martha Stewart the whole time, which I refuse to name. And the toe tag on the flag-draped corpse reads, of course you can see it, Trump. Now, I asked the president today about the Hollywood attacks on him. There are other images out there that aren't nice to see, that are being put on album covers, put on magazines, late-night TV. Hollywood depravity in our children. How big of a problem do you think it is?
Well, I think Hollywood depravity, period, is not only for children, for everything. I look at what's happening with that. And frankly, if they said some of the things about Obama, you would have people, politically correct people, say, oh, you can't say that. But with me, it's allowed. I think it's disgraceful. But we power forward.
Joining us now for reaction is Raymond Arroyo, New York Times bestselling author of the Will Wilder series and a broadcaster. Raymond, they've really hit an all-time low. I mean, Snoop Dogg, he's so 1990s, first of all. I mean, I know he's, Mr. Pothead. He loves smoking pot and cooking with Martha Stewart on their TV show, but this really is so low. I almost didn't even want to show.
Well, he's done this before. This is not the first time. In March, you remember in that music video, he had a gun to the head of the guy with the clown mask on.
Oh, yeah.
And this is nothing new. He should stick to the quinoa muffins with Martha. He's safer there, and the Republic is safe. But, here's the problem. We remember when President Obama was still president, there was a rodeo clown who had a mask on. A president. You're the radio clown. This is the rodeo clown. And President Obama's mask was on him. They banned him for life from the rodeo.
Oh yeah. Look at him, the poor guy. He weren't people in the stands though saying they wanted the rodeo clown to get run over by
do you want to see the president run over by a bull? And they all cheered.
That wasn't nice.
That's horrible. Look. Whether it's right or left, it's wrong. Here's why. It plants these murderous ideas into the minds of young people or sickos out there.
Yeah, I didn't like the mask on the rodeo clown, but a ban for life? I mean,
I don't like anybody. I don't like anybody threatening in images, toxic images, the death or the maiming of an individual, whether it's a president or anybody else. But when it's a president, we really should work.
But the Obamas had a lot of these rapper types in and out of the White House, right?
Common
and Drake and Jay-Z. I mean, you go through the lyrics of Jay-Z. Jay-Z's like, oh, he's really mainstream. Then you go through some of his lyrics like, whoa, like back that off. I don't want.
Not exactly Rodgers and Hammerstein.
No, not exactly. And then Alec Baldwin, doesn't he have I guess
he's got a parody book coming out. A satire.
He has been dining out on he's been dining out on the impersonation of
Trump. It's not a great impersonation.
It's a lousy impersonation.
Well, he's on the toilet. There's a scene where he's on the toilet in the book, and I don't think we can show the picture.
No.
Aren't you sad about that?
No, we're not.
No, but it's ridiculous. But again, it's demeaning, it's degrading, and it bespeaks something about the
Why are they so obsessed with Trump? What is it about this Hollywood industry that has its own problems, which we'll get to? But why are they so steeped in this hatred for
Trump? You know what part of it is?
Worse than Bush, much worse.
Because he came from their media world. He was a reality star. He was someone known and famous like they are. And I think, I know this. I'm talking to some actor friends. Some of them say, what does he have that I don't have? Well, he understands the people. He went out and spoke to them. He reflected their wishes and aspirations.
He's smarter.
And he won election.
And he's smarter than you are. I'm sorry, but this idea. Let's talk about
these. He did build a few businesses.
Yeah, a few businesses. Sexual abuse with Weinstein, now Kevin Spacey, Dustin Hoffman. You start to ask, is there anyone who wasn't involved either as a victim or as a predator in sexual abuse in Hollywood? And the Kevin Spacey thing just keeps getting worse and worse. He's a gay man, predatory behavior against low-level little
House of Card
PAs on
employees,
his, and now the House of Cards is falling. I mean, where are we on this?
You know, the art that a person creates, I think, reflects the heart of that person. And what we're seeing are a lot of really dark hearts. Now, some of us who've been watching these movies and these television shows for years...
What are some of the worst?
Well, It, which just came out. There was a movie, Mother, that Darren Aronofsky did, which has horrible... People ripping hearts out, brutality.
Yeah. Django Unchained, won all the awards.
When you put those kinds of violent images out, it comes from someplace.
And directly ahead...
That's absolutely right, ladies and gentlemen. I've been saying that, you see these shenanigans coming out of Hollywood, the violence, the depravity, the perversion, and you can understand the content of the material that they're putting out there, that these 6 corporations are putting out there. This is what's in their hearts, Norway.
Absolutely. He said it brilliantly. There are some really dark hearts in Hollywood. And I would say there are some really dark hearts in media in general, too, because when you see what CNN, MSNBC, what these idiots are cooking up, I mean, when they're making fake news, it's an atrocity because they have a monopoly. And when they put out all this crap in the market, it will stay there forever, and it will be used by future generations to do research into history. What was the history like here? And they have monopoly.
Yep.
So there is really no voice in the future to tell our side of the story.
Except us. So keep listening.
Except us. Exactly.
And the reason behind this, the reason they have such dark hearts, The Red Carpet Code of Silence in Hollywood by Daniel Greenfield, Why Hollywood and the Media Can't Stop the Abuses. Celebrities are too afraid to walk the red carpet. Stars are hanging up their tuxedos and designer dresses and staying home from movie premieres to avoid questions about the sex abuse scandals, not since the House Un-American Activities Committee was asking Hollywood players about their membership in the Communist Party. Have stars worked this hard to avoid answering a simple question, and now the red carpet questions aren't about being Reds, but back in the day, they were. Have a listen.
Have more order, please. This committee, under its mandate from the House of Representatives, has the responsibility of exposing and spotlighting subversive elements wherever they may exist. It is only to be expected that such elements would strive desperately to gain entry to the motion picture industry, simply because the industry offers such a tremendous weapon for education and propaganda. That communists have made such an attempt in Hollywood, and with considerable success, is already evident to this committee from its preliminary investigative work. The committee is determined that the hearing shall be fair and impartial. We have subpoenaed witnesses representing both sides of the question. All we are after are the facts.
Our American way of life is under attack from without and from within our national borders. I believe it is the duty of each loyal American to resist those attacks and defeat them.
I've never read Karl Marx, and I don't know the basis of communism beyond what I've picked up from hearsay. What I've heard, I don't like it, because it isn't on the level.
What is your opinion regarding communism?
Mr. Chairman, in common with millions of other men in this country in 1939 and 1940, I gave up my job to fight against a totalitarianism which was called fascism. I am quite willing to give it up again to fight against a totalitarianism called communism.
Fundamentally, I would say in opposing those people that the best thing to do is to make democracy work. In the Screen Actors Guild, we make it work by ensuring every one of a vote and by keeping our members informed. And Jefferson put it a lot better than I can, but if all the American people know all the facts, they'll never make a mistake.
I believe that any man who is a decent American and believes in the Constitution of the United States
The free enterprise system that has made this country, given its people the highest standard of living of any country on the face of the earth. I believe that man should be very proud of it, should stand up for it, and not be afraid to speak. Any real American would be proud to answer the question, are you or have you ever been a member of the Communist Party?
It depends.
Any real American?
It depends on the circumstances. See, I could answer, but if I did, I'd hate myself in the morning.
Leave the witness chair. Go ahead, Mr. Goodman.
Lowell, are you a member of the Screenwriters Guild?
I would like to answer that question. I'll be very happy to. I believe that the reason the question is asked is to help.
No.
I hear you, Mr.
Yeah, you hear me.
October 1947, 5 months after conducting preliminary closed hearings in Hollywood, the House Committee on Un-American Activities summoned the movie industry to Washington and opened its doors to the public. For the next 10 years, the House Committee would take Americans behind the scenes of their entertainment establishment to alert them to the dangers of a communist menace.
Communism in reality is not a political party. It is a way of life, an evil and malignant way of life. It reveals a condition akin to disease that spreads like an epidemic. And like an epidemic, a quarantine is necessary to keep it from infecting this nation.
The communists are red fascists. Anti-free enterprise, anti-capitalistic. Ideological termites have burrowed into many American industries. If you wanted to drop the rompers and look, you'd find the hammer and sickle on the rear end, I think. I think they're cracked. The great break.
And they had it right in 1950 Norway, and for the past 65 years, they have been telling everybody that would listen how horrible the House Un-American Activities Committee was, how horrible the Crusades were. They've done this. They've flipped history. They've gotten so many people to believe that the KKK are Republicans. We must reinstate true history. Hollywood
Absolutely.
is communistly infiltrated.
Absolutely. And I mean, this was back in Washington, D.C. in October 1947, and we heard in quick succession J. Parnell Thomas, the chairman of the House Un-American Activities Committee, Jack Warner of Warner Brothers Studios. I wonder what he would have thought about today's Hollywood. We heard Gary Cooper, actor. We heard Robert Montgomery, Screen Actors Guild. We heard Ronald Reagan, Screen Actors Guild. And incidentally, Ronald Reagan, after he testified against the communists, he had problems getting cast for good roles, which in turn forced him into politics. And I bet the liberals weren't too happy about the outcome of that. Then we heard Adolphe Menot, actor, Motion Pictures Alliance for the Preservation of American Ideals. We heard Ring Lardner Jr., which was a screenwriter, and I think he was a communist. And so also with Lester Cole. Then we heard J. Edgar Hoover and William Bullitt, former U.S. ambassador to the USSR.
So, there, like I said, there you have it, and we were on to it. And now you've got 10 million people voting for Bernie Sanders for president.
Absolutely. I mean, they really were onto it in 1947. If you go back to 1933, the U.S. recognized the Soviet Union as a nation, and that meant a sharp increase in number of communists. And also the Spanish Civil War, where Francisco Franco, supported by Hitler and Mussolini, they were battling against the ranks of the Communist Party, and there were 3,000 plus Americans that joined the Abraham Lincoln Battalion to go over there and fight, and a lot of them didn't have any ideology when they went over there, but they came back communists. So I would say from 1933 to 1947, that's quite a few years. And it took those years for Congress to realize that there was actually a communist conspiracy, and 10 of the people that were called, it was mainly screenwriters. 10 of them were sentenced to up to 1 year in prison for contempt of Congress because they didn't answer Congress's questions.
And that was only a tiny part of the House Un-American Activities Committee's work. I mean, they were created in 1938 and went all the way up to 1969. You know, this is something that lasted decades and looked at like all kinds. As a matter of fact, they're still here. They just changed the committee's name. They changed it to the House Committee on Internal Security, but then they abolished it in 1975, and the duties went to the House Judiciary Committee. So very interesting stuff. And again, this goes to what I said at the top of the show, that none of this is new. None of this is new. We've just been reprogrammed several times to think that anybody who says anything about communists is just a red scare, you know, or something that's not relevant and not viable. But it certainly is. It hasn't changed. A little bit of the organization of the Soviet Union and the communist enemy has changed, but the ideology is still there, and it's fully ensconced in today's Democrat Party.
Yeah, well, I would actually say, you know, I know people like Dennis Prager try to make the case that progressives and liberals, you know, they're two different things, and progressives they're not really that bad. You know,
that's ridiculous.
They actually they hold the same beliefs that the communists do,
and they actually morphed. There was a time in America before World War I where communism was not the bad word that it is now, and it started to change. And I've read some reports where during the Woodrow Wilson's era, you know, one of the changes was from communist to progressive. I mean, it was looking for that language. They've had this language, this command of the language for so long. Who wouldn't want to be progressive?
Exactly. I mean, progress. Who's against progress? And we're back at the core of this whole issue again, because it's language. Like our brilliant caller earlier in the program said, language is so important. And who's against progress, right?
Exactly.
So let's call ourselves progressives, and that way they've been able to inject the ideology of socialism and communism into the American society, into American popular culture,
brilliantly,
and into the news feed. 24/7 news feed from these six big corporations.
And if you argue against it, you're against progress. Let's sneak one more in by Laura Ingraham about Louis C.K.
Another Hollywood bombshell. The comedian Louis C.K. has been accused by 5 women of sexual misconduct. The allegations were reported by the New York Times, and now the distributor of his new film, Daddy, I Love You, has abruptly canceled the premiere due to unexpected circumstances. Well, they may be unexpected to his distributor, but for those of us familiar with Louis C.K.'s career, it was totally expected. As with Harvey Weinstein, there were whispers in the media about C.K.'s sexual misdeeds for years. Remember his stand-up routine and tweets about Sarah Palin and her special needs child in 2010? With misogynistic glee, he ridiculed Palin's body parts and her, quote, and I hate reading this, but this is what he said, retard baby. To give you some insight into the depravity of Louis C.K.'s mind, this is one of the cleaner tweets I can read. He said, people think that Sarah Palin is really mean, but she has a family of Chinese poor people living in her hole. Sorry, it got even more vile from there. I can't read anymore. Despite knowing all of this sordid and sick comments Louis had made about Sarah Palin, Jay McMichael, the 2012 chair of the Radio and Television Correspondents Association, invited him to headline the group's dinner. It's this hoity-toity deal in Washington. He defended his decision to invite the comedian, telling Politico, "It gives the dinner a bit of an edge. It shakes it up a little, which is what we wanted to do. One of our goals was to make it not so stuffy an evening." Louis C.K. fit the bill when it came to that. Yeah, he fit the bill all right. Greta Van Susteren, then at this network, boycotted the dinner, and she correctly called him out. She called out Louis and called him a pig. Greta wrote on her blog, "I refuse to show any support for this guy, and I think the organization that hired him is just as bad as he is. It's no secret that he denigrates women." Within days, Louis dropped out of the dinner. Though the Radio and TV Correspondents Association didn't rescind their invite, he dropped out. Greta was right. Louis C.K. had denigrated women and children for years. The man is a total degenerate. Here's a sample of his sterling work.
There's no worse life available to a human than being a caught child molester. From their point of view, it must be amazing for them to risk so much. How do you think I feel? It's my last show, probably. If somebody said to me, if you eat another Mounds bar, you'll go to jail and everybody will hate you, I would stop eating them. Because they do taste delicious, but they don't taste as good as a young boy does and shouldn't.
These days, my problem is very simple. It's trying to find a place in my house where I can masturbate without somebody bothering me. And that's really difficult.
He even dresses like a pig.
That is a sick guy right there. I never even heard of him. I was telling Norway in the behind the clip that I never even heard of this guy. But, man, he's a sick guy. And you know, that's probably why Greta lost her job. I mean, you know, she's a stand-up girl. I hope she comes out of this okay. I'd like to see her back somewhere. Ladies and gentlemen, at the top of the show, I asked you, or I told you we were going to have a question. And this you could answer to yourself or, you know, in your own crowd or in the chat room. But I was just curious if with all these things that are going on and your knowledge that the media is 90% controlled by 6 global corporations, I wonder if you've changed any of your media habits. And what I mean by that is television, movies, magazines, etc. I mean, I certainly have. I haven't turned on my television. The only thing I started doing in the last couple of days, I started watching my local news. Just my local news. Other than that, the TV doesn't really get a lot of play anymore in Norway.
Absolutely. I hope people are tuning in to the show. I would urge people to donate, and if you cannot donate, please share the show anyway, because that is one of the ways we get paid is by getting the truth out to more people. I would just say that Anne in the chat room had a fantastic message here. She said that they are going to sexual assault us to death, and it's going to be just like racism. It will come to a point where we don't care anymore, and real victims will pay the price. And I think she's right in many respects. I believe it's become fashionable with these things, and it will probably come to that point that people don't care anymore, and so when these allegations come out, they also need to be backed up by facts.
Absolutely, and you can hear it in the comedian talking about how young children taste better than whatever he was talking about, but just a sick perversion. And you're right, they're gonna do it. They've sexualized our children to the point where it's not going to be stunning anymore. It's just like with all the sexuality now. You know, that can you imagine somebody from the 1950s turning on a television playing stuff from today? I mean, they'd throw their television out the door.
Absolutely. I mean, the Democrats back then, they would probably have a meltdown if they saw what's on TV now.
If you go back and listen to a speech by Hubert Humphrey at the 1968 convention, he sounds like Ronald Reagan. I mean, they've changed so much. He's talking family values and American traditions. It's just, what a shame for the Democrat Party. Shame on you people. Norway, do you have any final statements, and how can people get in touch with you? We are out of time, sir.
Yes. Next week, next Monday, we are going to tear into the first episode of Deep State. And I think the audience will really love this. We are looking at doing a 3-episode show on the Deep State. So hang tight and tune in next Monday. I am at Norway for Trump on Twitter and Gab, and that's at Norway4 with the number 4.
But all right, I want to thank everybody for listening live, and please do share the show. Listenership's down in the last couple episodes. We need to get it back up there. We need to get this thing shared out. If you can donate, you know where to do it, steelcityresistance.com. I'm Hutch Bailey Jr. on Facebook, Berg's Eye View on Twitter. Heading over to the Wayne Dupree Show. It is up next. Norway, what's playing in the background, sir?
It's Sons of Norway, or translated Sønner av Norge.
Beautiful
Very
stuff.
patriotic.
Beautiful stuff. Thank you, Norway. And thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for letting us into your life for 1 hour. God bless.
God bless.
Fritt tør han tenke